Okay, I want to get into now what I'd like to call the full Photoshop technique, where we're going to do a full smile design, but a little bit more, let's say, advanced or intricate things we can do. We're going to actually measure in Photoshop, and we're going to use those measurements that we're going to make of the old teeth that'll translate to new lengths for our new teeth that will then allow us to be accurate in our design wax-up, ultimately our aesthetic prototypes, and design our new teeth fairly predictably. All right, now I've opened these images in Camera Raw, and remember Camera Raw, we'll make some adjustments there. I've already done that. I've showed you how to do that a couple times, so we don't need to do that. Let's open both of these images now into Photoshop. So we have two images that we need absolute minimum. We need a cheeks retracted view. It could be a close-up cheeks retracted view, or it could be a full face cheeks retracted view. And then actually with a full face, then we can see and we can rotate. All right, so let's work on this image first. And what we're going to do is grow the image up to fill the screen, Command or Control 0. And what we want to do is fix rotations first. And you can see that we didn't quite capture this image correct. Let's toggle back and forth between the two images. And the other thing about these two images, you can see that they were shot at slightly different magnification ratios. Now I teach to shoot at the exact same magnification ratio, and I purposely chose this. It was a case I was working with one of my students, and I'll show you this finished case at the end. And accidentally we captured it wrong, and this happens in the real world, and so you have to be able to know how to fix that. So in this segment, I'll show you how to align images that are shot with maybe a slightly different rotation and a slightly different magnification ratio. Okay, let's start first with the rotation issue. Now the simplest way to fix the rotation is you can just rotate it with the free transform, or one thing that's more accurate you can do is draw some lines and rotate to the lines. Now anytime that we draw some lines or anything, we want to do it on a layer to keep it separate from our image. All right, so let's create a new layer. Let's go up to the Layers palette, Layer, New Layer. And we'll name that layer, let's say, line number 1. Okay, that's going to be our midline, let's say. Now we're going to activate our brush tool. It's over here, or the hotkey is B. So click on that. And I already have white selected over here in the colors. And I'm going to come up here and look at my brush submenu. And when you are drawing and you want a hard edge, we're going to change the hardness to 100. If it wasn't set at 100, set it at 100. And the pixel size is going to be relative to the size of the image, so the size of the line. So if I had a gigantic pixel right here, I'm going to draw, that's just too big. Command or Control Z to get rid of that, undo it. That was 166 pixels. We're going to want to be down around 12 pixels, let's say. All right, now I want to draw a vertical line, perfectly vertical line. So I'm going to come up here, and to draw a vertical line, you hold down the Shift key, you click, and you drag. Okay, so didn't want to do that. I want to get on my image. Okay, there we go. Get on the image, Shift, click, and drag, and I draw a perfect vertical line. Now it's not quite on the center of its face, on her face, excuse me, but it is a vertical line. Now I can move that. Now how do I do that? With the Move tool. I hit the V key or push on the V key, or come up to this icon and click on it, and then with the right or left arrow, I'm going to move that to what I think is about the center of her face. And I can fine tune it later. All right, now the next thing I'd like to do is put a horizontal line on her eyes. So what we'll do is make a new layer. Again, Layer, New, Layer, and we'll call it Line 2, or you can call it Eyes if you want to. And look at the Layers palette. Once I click OK, all right, we got a new layer here. Okay, and now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to draw a horizontal line, activating the brush tool. Could have used the B key. Hold down the Shift key, and then just drag horizontally across the image there. All right, now what I'm going to do then is I can either click and drag that, or I can use down arrow after I activate the Move tool. All right, to bring that down to see about how her rotation is there. And you can see clearly she's off just a little bit. So we're going to have to rotate her face to these lines, or basically to the postural rest position. And now how are we going to do that? All right, we can do that. We want to rotate her individual layer. So let's go highlight that layer. But when a layer is a background layer, it's automatically locked. You can't do too much to it. We have to unlock that layer. So how you do that you turn it into a normal layer. To turn a background layer into a normal layer, double click on it, and it'll come up and ask you if you want a new layer, and you just say OK, and we'll just call it layer 0, like it's prompted to, and it's now a normal layer. And I'm going to shrink this down a little bit so I can see the corner, just like on a phone. You want to shrink an image, put two fingers, move it together, or Command or Control minus. All right, now a tool that we've used before and we're going to use again here to rotate or shrink or grow is the Free Transform. Okay, it's in the Edit menu, Free Transform, or you can just do Command or Control T. All right, and this comes up here, and this little box, and I move the cursor around the corner, and I can just rotate. I can have a lot of fun here if I wanted to, and I just start to rotate this till I see that I think her face is unrotated. I mean, in other words, that she's straight up and down. Okay, great. Then I can move it left and right a little bit relative to the arrows. I think that's okay. I think her midline is off just a little bit to my line, but I actually want to move the lines to her face. I don't want to move the image off that transparency that you can see in the back, or I'll actually lose some of her image, because that's my canvas in the background. And if I move the image of her face off the canvas, I'll lose some of it. All right, so I think I'm in pretty good shape there, so I'm going to click Enter, hit the Enter key to apply that. All right, now I'm going to go back to my line, my midline. I just click on that, and then I'm going to move that line over to what I think is the center of her face there. You can see her midline of her teeth is maybe off just slightly, no big deal on the midline. Let's click on her eyes, bring that down just to the center of her eyes. So I think we are pretty good right there. Maybe a teeny tiny slight rotation, but so little that I can't see it. Great. Now at this point, if I want to duplicate this layer and everything like that, no problem. But before I do that, I want to crop this. I want to get rid of this extra stuff. This is now included in the image. It's a transparency. We want to crop that out of the image so we have just a new image with a clean edge. So how do you do that? Turn on the crop tool. In the new Photoshop, it automatically proposes a crop, but you can do a custom crop by dragging this little mouse. It's already looks like a little crop down here and Start, and you bring and you kind of crop what you want. All right, and I'm just holding down my mouse right here, and I want to crop as much of this as I can. All right, and then I can add to the crop here. I don't want to crop, I don't want any of the transparency left in there, and you can see I got a little bit of the transparency on the bottom. Need to bring that up a little bit. I want to get a little bit more of this on the right here. Great. Perfect. And I'm working on a full resolution image because we need all these pixels for later. Wonderful. Now we're going to push on the Enter Return to apply the crop. Okay, now these lines, I can save these lines in another file. I could just duplicate this, throw away the layer of her face, and have these lines just in a file called lines. And I can have a bunch of different layers. I'd have different 3 or 4 horizontal lines, 3 or 4 vertical lines, and I could just drag these in, and I never need to draw them again. In fact, in this DVD, I will give you a couple of files that have lines and teeth in them, but I just wanted to show you how to do it. All right, great. Now I'm going to duplicate this, Command or Control J again. So we're going to now duplicate the face, and we're going to call this. Let's click on this. Let's put this underneath here, and we'll call this double click here, and we'll just call this Original. Great, and that's how we fix rotations, and that's how we line everything up. Now the next segment, next chapter that'll come up, I will show you how we align that other image that was improperly composed, the wrong magnification ratio. We will grow it and distort it and or warp it to fit this, so that we're working on images that match.